Good morning, mathematicians, proofwriters, and problem solvers alike. Um, Got to correct an error in the previous office hours, yesterday's office hours, because I said something silly. But thankfully, I've got the best viewers on YouTube, and they fixed my mistakes for me in the comment section. So, in the previous office hours, yesterday's office, just got a pop-out chat, like usual, which I still haven't bothered figuring out how to fix things. Okay. So what did I say that was wrong yesterday? Well, let's bring up one note. It was the definition that I gave of locally compact. Good morning, Edit Smith. You're definitely one of my most regular viewers now, I would say. Okay, let's see. Where was, well, I'll just tell you the mistake. So yesterday I said something silly. I said that locally compact meant that for all x in x, there existed, a compact subset of x such that k contained x. But this isn't true, actually. That's not what local compactness means, because you can always just take the singleton set. That's always going to be compact. So everything would be locally compact, and that wouldn't be very meaningful. Rather, and I didn't even take my own advice here. Normally when something says locally, that also means it has something to do with open sets. So it should be for all x and x, there exists an open set, open subset of x, such that u contains x, and there exists a compact set of x that contains u. Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. So, sorry about that. I definitely do make mistakes, especially when I'm yapping on this channel early morning while I'm having coffee. So, please feel free during the stream or afterwards in the comments to be like, hey, wait a second. What you said doesn't quite make sense. I'm pretty sure it's false. Let me know, because then these videos stay online. If those issues don't get corrected, then maybe I'm perpetuating errors across the internet. And there's enough of those already, so I don't feel like I need to contribute. What should we dig into today? I still haven't made any book review videos. I should make those. I'm not going to do those on stream. Maybe I can talk about some books on stream that I'm reading, that I'm looking at. What are some things I'm looking at now? Okay, I can show you. I can show you some of the PDFs I've got open. So, the most of these are for research purposes. So this is a paper by Bushnell and Kutsko on the theory of types for p-adic groups, not to be confused with type theory. Let's be clear, though, not to be confused with type theory. What is this? So maybe I'll give you just a quick explanation. Well, the very short idea is, so we have this okay. All right. So classically, we have like representations. We want to study the category of representations of some group. And if this is a finite group, then I think I talked on a previous live stream that actually studying that category is equivalent to studying the category of modules. Modules over the ring of complex functions on the group. I should say this is the category of complex representations. But this is true for other fields as well. This holds for other fields. But I'm studying representations of a p-adic group. And, actually, you can get an equivalence with modules over some ring called this is really overloaded notation. There's a lot of things called Hecke algebras. This is maybe the total Hecke algebra, the big Hecke algebra of G. But it's very similar. It's defined a lot like this. It's basically functions under convolutions. Hey, Tony the Lion. Wait, Tony the Lion. Am I confusing it? There's someone that posts that has hilarious math tweets on Twitter, or X, I guess it is now. I don't know if that's you, but if it is you, I think I shared one of your tweets recently. I don't remember what it was, but there's some. Maybe it's just that there's another lion profile pic. Well, let me bring it up. If I go to my profile. Oh yeah, this is sick. Right, is this... Oh no, chaotic math proof line. Different line. Oh, Tony the Line. Oh my god, is that really you? Is that really the same person? You've got some banger tweets. Absolute banger tweets. For real. Amazing. Keep up the good work. Keep up the good work. It's appreciated. Yeah. So anyways, yeah, we've got these like convolution algebras. But if you want to do the whole category at once, it's kind of stinky because this ring doesn't have identities. But there's a way to sort of break this category up into pieces, into little smaller pieces, and then each of these smaller pieces is equivalent to modules over some smaller ring. Okay, there's actually more to it than that. It's like fancier and more meaningful reasons, but that's kind of the gist of what Bushnell and Kutsko are doing in this paper. Well, they're doing it for like pretty general p-adic groups, which builds on their work. There's this paper from the Annals. Not a paper. This is a book. They write a whole ass book specifically for GLN, and they show the point of this book is to basically reduce. So I guess I'll just bring it up here, right? The category splits into all of these little blocks, right? But the point of their paper is that for the case of GLN, those little blocks all just sort of look like the sort of main one, just smaller versions of the main one. Okay, that's a vague and not clear statement. It would take some time to explain, but yeah, that's basically what they do, and that's a simple situation. Life is just more complicated for the other groups, but I think this was at least originally an important step in establishing the Langlands correspondence. No, I could be wrong. Do you necessarily need that? Well, probably to make sure everything works out for supracuspidals. So then there's another paper. This is from 2016 that kind of they go back and they prove there's some stuff that I needed from both of these two papers of Bushnell and Kutsko that they just don't prove insufficient generality. They make some comment about, oh, it's easy to see how the general case should go, right? That's the comment they make. And then, here's a 38-page paper. Okay, to be fair, that 38-page paper is proving more. But yeah. But I guess they're Bushnell and Kutsko. They can do what they want. They're kings. Now, also somewhat related, very much to my research, this book, D Modules in Perverse Sheaves. So, my research group is using something called Perverse sheaves, which are not sheaves, and they're not so perverse, in my opinion, but that's their name. And that's our perspective, but there's an equivalent perspective where one can study something called D modules, which are like modules over a ring of differential operators. You see like these operators here. And so we're talking with someone who's more experienced in who's her focus is in analysis in our department, and we've been having these meetings to try and bring our minds together to bridge us more like algebra with her analysis expertise, and see if by putting our heads together we can't arise at some sort of deeper understanding of the, maybe write a paper, have some new tools or something. Yeah, naming is hard. It's true, but yeah, I really don't know the true origin of perverse sheaves. I mean, yeah, I can tell you a little bit about them. I'm not going to give you the full definition. I don't remember the precise technical definition off the top of my head because there's a bunch of like jargony stuff. But the point is, so we have. Good morning, Russell. The point is we have, say, sheaves. Sheaves on some topological space, and then we can also have complexes of sheaves. So that's just like you've got a map, you've got a whole bunch of maps. They satisfy some other special conditions, but that's not so important. We've just got some complex of sheaves. And basically, the really low-level explanation, which might sound funny to some of you, because some of you are probably freaking out about the fact that I mentioned sheaves already, but it's all perspective. One person's low level is another person's incomprehensible. That's just for always true, forever true, for your whole mathematical life. Anyways, a perverse sheaf is just a special complex, basically. Now, let me be clear. There's huge inaccuracies in what I'm saying. I mean, definitely. The part that it's like defined in terms of a complex, but there's more. There's much more going on here. Yeah, but maybe one sort of point is that if X is smooth, then all of the perverse sheaves on X just look like so there's very, very nice sheaves called the local system. So it's just going to be a complex where all the terms are zero except in the term given by the dimension of X, right? So if X was two-dimensional, it would be like this term up here. This is going to be a local system. And so why would one, like, who cares? Like, well, what are the point of these things? No idea what's going on, but okay with it. Nice. Yeah, hanging out, doing notes for your class. Hell yeah. Studying vector calculus. Nice, nice, nice. Well, this is what is sheaves, but a very fancy version of vector calculus, anyways. Mm. Maybe that's an idea for an upcoming stream. Maybe I should plan some streams. Talk about vector calculus and differential forms. Very, very cool stuff. Um, Anywho, so let me just to finish this thought. Special complex, x is smooth. So the point is, if x is not smooth, if it's got some singular points, got some bad behaved points, then this fails to be true. So in some sense, well, okay. So I don't know if this is actually where the definition comes from. So this is like an apocryphal justification of the name, but you could consider them as like they're perverse sheaves because like they're things that want to be sheaves, that would be sheaves on a smooth space, but they're perverted. They sort of get stretched out along this complex because of the presence of singularities. Okay, that's maybe one way to talk about it. Kind of makes you think of local Euclidean space, diffeo to smooth manifolds. Yeah, well, I mean I mean, so there's an algebraic version of this theory and a differential geometric version of this theory. So I do tend to think, just because as opposed to like some of the people in my research group are more, I would say, deeply algebraic geometers. I maybe have a little more experience in differential geometry, and so I lean on that in my understandings of these things. So when I'm writing this stuff, normally I'm thinking that X is a smooth manifold, and so yeah, this is like a theory that could happen. Well, this is a theory that does happen on smooth manifolds, but really where these become interesting is and useful is on non-smooth manifolds. So for anyone who was in my stream when I was yapping earlier about my research, I was talking about there's these varieties that I look at, and I look at these singularities in the varieties, and that's supposed to like tell me something. Well, this is actually the tool that we use to look at those singularities. It's this idea of a perverse sheaf that picks up these informations about singularities. I studied vector calculus, but the stream helps me socialize higher math concepts, like a good survey course. Cool. Any opinions on different math fonts? Yeah. I mean, actually, there's so much interesting stuff you could say about math fonts, which is hilarious because a normal person on the street, you're like, oh, do you want to hear my opinion on math fonts? And they're like, wow, I didn't know, I don't think I could have conceived of a more boring idea in the world, and yet, yeah. Well, let's be clear. Math frac. Let's see. Do I have some frac going on here? Do I have some frac in this? Let me kill this thing. Right. Yeah. So I've got some math frac here. I mean, it's a necessary evil, I guess. Because sometimes I think about, oh yeah, so yeah, symbols are fun. I mean, like unironically, a large portion of why I got into mathematics is just because I thought the symbols looked cool, and I wanted an excuse to write them in a meaningful way. I'm not joking as much as you might think I am. I actually have a very deep core memory. I don't know why, like, yeah, I was on some bus. I think it was a city bus. And I don't know why. I don't know where I was going. Yeah, it was weird because my dad was a bus driver, but I think like I was like this was before he did that, so I don't know why. Like my parents had vehicles growing up, so I don't know why we were on the city bus, but I'm pretty sure it was a city bus, and I remember someone having this piece of paper, and I only recognize it now as math. Like, unless this is one of those false memories, your brain just like makes stuff up sometimes. But like, I'm pretty sure there was a sigma on there, and a bunch of other symbols I didn't understand. But I remember being like fascinated by it. And lo and behold, I became a mathematician. Uh, but anyways, yeah, math frac. What to say about math frac? I mean, here's the thing. I try to be mindful. The thing is, in the modern day of LaTeX, like it doesn't matter at all, right? But I do still write things by hand, and sometimes you do want to give Blackboard talks and whatnot. And so I try to be mindful in those cases of using different fonts. But there's fun ways to come up with different ways to write stuff. Like so I think it was a friend of mine that actually gave me this idea that to write like a math cal B, you think of it as like writing a 2 and a 3 and putting them together. So that's like what I think of when I write my math cal B's like this. Or yeah. But like math frac, like it's so hard. Like how am I supposed to make this A math frac A? You know what I mean? Or like how am I supposed to make this F a math frac F? Like that seems tricky in handwriting stuff. I would say in general, like try to avoid overloading notation. Like there's this one guy I know who's publishing papers, not personally, well, like sort of, an online acquaintance, let's say. And I'm not going to pull it up because I don't want to, I don't know, offend this person. They're probably not watching my streams, but their notation is just, it's very super not legible. There's a lot of math frac. There's a lot of like weird like C's that don't need to be there. Don't at me, differential geometers. There's a lot of like just weird fancy symbols and scripts that don't really need to be there. And I think it really affects the clarity of writing, and when like in a lot of these cases a simple variable x would do. And I suspect that it certainly turns me off from reading those papers. And so I suspect that could be the case for other people as well. So that's something to be mindful of, right? And it's also like, I think this is also something that, cranks love to do, right? Like cranks and crackpots love words that sound cool. By the way, one of the coolest words in mathematics is symplectomorphism. Oh my god. I'm so glad I've been looking at some symplectic geometry lately. Symplectomorphism. Oh my god. I could say it all day. But symplectomorphism. Well, right now we're talking about math fonts. I've got a bunch of questions further back in chat got to answer, but where was I now? Yeah, so they'll come up, math crackpots will, they'll just string words together that they think sound cool or symbols that look cool. And they're right. They're right that the symbols that they're saying and the words they're mashing together like sound cool. But it's nonsense. And so I think you also run the risk, like if you go too far with just using random ass symbols that you think look cool and terms that you think sound cool, people might think you're a crank. And so that's something, that you kind of want to avoid, Yeah, mathematics is not just about like proving theorems. Maybe for some people it is, right? If you're brilliant enough, then, no one cares if the way that you write sucks. I mean, they do. They'll complain about it behind your back. But, if you're super brilliant, whatever, you can just throw out papers and, But at the end of the day, like, mathematics is about communication of ideas. And you do need to think about, not being a burden on the reader. And that also means in terms of, like, visibly the aesthetic appeal of the choice of symbols that you're using. Or, I mean, like, if you're writing, like, if I'm reading your paper, I also need to be, like, writing those symbols down on a piece of paper. Like, I'm going to use that. I'm going to work on my whiteboard or blackboard or something, right? And so if you're using these awful, terrible notations, like, I'm not going to replicate that. I'm going to, I'll then have to, like, just use my own symbols, and then I have to keep track of which one of my symbols corresponds to which one of your symbols, and it's just like a nightmare. At the same time, there's only so many letters in the alphabet, and eventually we just run out, right? There's only so many. It's like, oh, I used the Roman, I used the math cal, I used the math frac, on and on and on and on, and eventually you're gonna run out of symbols, so you gotta start pulling weird stuff out of somewhere, right? Yeah. I feel like there's so much more I could say about fonts, interesting fonts in mathematics. Side note, let me show you one book. I don't remember where I got this. I think it was a professor cleaning out their books, but it's this book called Mathematics as Sign. It's about the semiotics of mathematics. So just a couple essays about, writing itself. Like, there's a whole, academic field that studies writing and the idea of using symbols to communicate ideas. And I don't think many people have talked about that in the context of mathematics. I haven't really read it yet. Well, you can see I've got a bookmark in there, but yeah, I haven't opened it for a while. Anywho, is that all I want to say on fonts for now? I guess. Let's see what other questions. How's the grad funding in Canada? Have you heard about the situation in the U.S.? Well, certainly I've heard about what's going on in the U.S., but I don't know how that's immediately affected. Oh, by Brian Rotman? Yes, by Brian Rotman. Yeah. I don't know how that's affected things in the U.S. It's hard. I don't know how the funding situation actually compares. Because, for example, I was at a summer school in California this past summer. So there's a lot of people from the States, and they were telling me their salaries, and my eyes were kind of bugging out of my head because it was so. They were complaining about how little they got, but they were like, but I'm like, the number you just gave me is quite a bit more than my salary, and it's in USD, so then it's even more than that translated into Canadian dollars. But then again, the cost of living in some of those cities is a lot more as well. So it's very hard to know what the actual translation is. Like, at the end of the day, maybe they're taking more. I don't know. Yes, I agree that got into coding software the way I liked the way code looked. Yes, yeah, that's the ideal reason, and absolutely the act of writing out math is cathartic. Yeah, so that's why sometimes I even like. Of course, I like the creative process of production and coming up with stuff, but actually I do like writing as well. And sometimes I do. Sometimes I do want to just do like rote calculation or draw some sort of pictures or something. There's just something about I don't know, like I have a page of notes. Where did I put it? sometimes I just want to go through my notebook and there's like pages that I think look really good. Like I just really like the look of the symbols on this page. Um, yeah, I don't even know. It's okay. So it's a nightmare computation, to be clear. Like, it's not as you can probably tell. It's yeah, maybe not fun to have to sit there and meditate through it, but actually it kind of is for me. I just really like the way it looks. Like I almost want to take this out and like put it on my wall or frame it or something. It's just for whatever reason, my brain is just into that. Assortment of symbols. I almost sometimes think about. I know that once there was an artist that got like, like 10 famous mathematicians to draw like their favorite equation or something. But it'd be really cool. Like I have no cred in the art world, but I wonder if somehow I could apply to do like an art installation somewhere where I just like reach out to a bunch of mathematicians all over the world and just get them to send me a random page of their notes and just their scribbles, because I think there is just this inherent aesthetic quality to these notes, to these scribbles. So yeah, hate those old books with painful robotic fonts. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, like yeah, talk about painful fonts. There's some bad, like there's some books I just can't read. Like there's some books I'm gonna like throw out because I don't even think anyone else should try to read them. It's heartbreaking when there's like a professor giving away books, or some store has some really cheap books on sale and it's just this unreadable font, and like and it's unfortunate because maybe it's like, oh, that's the foundational text of the field, and then it's just like, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna decide to be a worse mathematician and not learn this field because this font is illegible. Do I have one of those around? Let me see. I try not to. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Here's a perfect example. Okay, so I wanted, my channel name's K-Theory. I should learn K-Theory at some point. So here's a book on algebraic K-Theory. But look at this font. It's just, I'm sorry, this is unreadable to me. I don't know how well you can see it, but in my opinion, this style of font, this like old typewriter stuff, ugh, I just can't with it, and like, I'm sorry, Hyman Bass, but someone's got to reprint this book. I may as well, like, I don't even know why I'm hanging on to this. It needs to go. I can't even have it in my house. It makes me sick. Ooh, yeah, this Arton book corrected with pen by hand. Yeah, and then there's also books that have that old kind of type that also, like, never mind corrected by hand. Like sometimes there's just certain symbols they weren't able to like make in type, so then they would hand draw in like integral lines, and it's just wow. It's amazing the difference that like technology has made for mathematics. Like just having something like LaTeX, like I feel like this has done wonders for mathematical production. Maybe it's something that goes unappreciated. Just simple things like tech and being able to share documents on the internet, like this, in my opinion, is like exponentially increased our abilities to produce mathematics. Yeah. From India, wanted to ask if getting to study pure math at a research institute, but if want math finance job, should I go for grad school? So I don't really know about math finance so much. I mean, I've looked into it as I've considered other options after grad school, but my understanding is that, yeah, probably if you want math, if you're gonna do math finance, my understanding is that a master's is a pretty good idea. But I don't know if a PhD has as much return on investment. Like I think if you do a master's at like a top, there's like a, what's it called? Not a catchment school, but a target school. Like definitely aim to get in there, or maybe even do your master's at the best school you possibly can, and then work your way up to a PhD in finance. So many math grads pivot into finance for the money. Yeah, yeah, it's true. I mean, speaking of salaries, whether it's better in the States or not, like grad student salaries aren't great everywhere, or aren't great anywhere. And like let's think about this. Okay, if you're a genius, maybe you go through things faster, but like um let's think about the ordinary Canadian progression. So let's say you're 18, you go to school, you graduate, you get your bachelor's when you're 22, right? So now you've got your bachelor's. Let's say you do a master's. I mean, in the States, maybe you go right into PhD, but then it's typically longer. So then let's say you do a master's. Now you're 24. And now let's say you do a PhD, typically around 4 years. Some people do it in 3. Definitely since the COVID era, it's been common to take longer. Now you're 28. Now you're 28. So that's not so bad. That's not so bad. But then you also, so like you can definitely be poor throughout all of your 20s and be happy. You can definitely be really poor throughout all your 20s and be happy. But I think after your 30s, it starts to. I've never been one to keep up with the Joneses, but being poor starts to get old. And for me personally, I didn't do the straight shot, right? I took time off, so now I'm older. I'm older than 28, and I'm still in my PhD. And then after your PhD, you've got postdoc positions, right? And then that's probably another 3 years. So that takes you to 31, and then you start applying to be a professor. But like early professor, I mean, postdoc, you're making okay money. You're making okay money. You're not struggling anymore. You're not worrying about groceries or rent or something. But this is sort of like the ideal path, right? This is like a normal, typical path. No bumps on the road, no slowing down. But imagine for any number of reasons that you're now shifted, and that some stage in this process took longer, or you started longer. Yeah, you start to feel the burden of finances a little bit more, and and especially like the thing is the job market for postdocs is pretty rough. That's all I've ever heard for years is about. I mean, I haven't applied yet, so I don't have firsthand experience, but all I've been hearing for years is how rough the postdoc market is. So so I guess probability stochastics PDEs would be focused on. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. In fact, I'd yeah. So definitely probability theory. Definitely like statistics and programming. You definitely want some programming skills as well, even if you're not on the like software development end of things. You'll still need skills with a computer. So yeah, and I would yeah. Everyone should have some statistics skills, I think, and some computer skills. Actually, I don't know. I always make statements like this, but then I'm like, there's so many people doing great without it. Who am I to say? Who am I to say? Yeah. So, but one other thing, but before we got into some of these questions, I was talking about some of the PDFs I have open at the moment, and so one of them is this book. This is an amazing book, by the way. Uh, where's the actual title? It's by Lamb. Yeah, Lectures on Rings and Modules by YT Lamb. Um, can you link a Reddit post for me to react? Yeah, sure. Please do, please do. But yeah, lectures on rings, lectures on modules and rings by YT Lamb. Awesome book. Um, this I'm reading more for fun. This isn't so much related to my research. Although it actually the reason why I'm sort of reading this for fun, or maybe in the back of my head there's an idea that eventually a research topic could come out of this, is understanding equivalences of categories of modules. And so this is called Merida theory. Yeah, please drop the link in the chat to the Reddit post. Oh, by the way, I officially monetized. So I'm officially in it for the money now. Speaking of being hard on finances, but I did not turn ads on for the stream, just because I feel like, I don't know, that kind of sucks, and that maybe gets in the way of stuff. But I don't know. I mean, let me know how much you would hate ads on the stream or not, because like money's great. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, the ads are turned on, I guess, for these videos afterwards, but like, yeah, I don't know, midstream, I feel like I would hate that. You know what I mean? I mean, I guess that's the point of why you buy YouTube Premium or something, but I don't know. Can't link it directly. Math is taught wrong. Oh, and it's hypocritical. Oh, I already responded to that post, actually. Yeah, actually, no, sorry, I didn't respond to that post, but I did respond to, so let's go Reddit math. I responded to that one on, there's a version of that post on r/philosophy. Philosophy. Let's see, where is it? The origin of the universe has already been revealed. Interesting. Crank-like title, but I think that's a legit journal. I'm gonna new tab that one. I should probably just search for this instead of. Let's see. Math is taught wrong. Math is taught wrong. Philosophy, Reddit. Aha. Oh, philosophy is science. Yeah. Okay, so you guys can go find this post on philosophy of science. It's a cross. This is the same post, so they even mention, right, already cross posted in another community. Cross posts are not allowed. Yeah, I just don't agree with this guy at all. And I say about as much. I say about as much. Where am I? At the bottom. I was late to the game, so probably nobody liked my comment, or they think I'm wrong as hell. Yeah, here I am down here. But yeah, in the short, what's the TLDR of this post? I can tell you. I mean, you guys can read it yourself. Yeah, I don't know. They just have strong opinions about the way math is taught, and yeah, I guess the long and short of it is they're talking about the fact that math is sociological, right? And you know what? To be fair, I feel like everyone has comes to this awakening at some point. Well, maybe not everyone, but like, I remember when I was younger, I thought math was this pure thing, this pure realm of objective truth. Except actually it's a human invention. We write down the axioms, we decide what's interesting, right? The math that's interesting or important is not inherently interesting and important. It's humans decide what is interesting and important, right? It's a completely subjective thing. And it sounds like this person's, has recently come to the illusion shattering conclusion about this. Um, um, and That's too bad, I guess. But then they feel, they sort of go on this rant that, like, oh, we should be talking more about the philosophy and the history and the motivation behind these concepts. They feel that their education has been dishonest. But I just, as I say in the post, like, I disagree. It's like, at the end of the day, like, a math class, there's only so many hours in a semester, right? And it's like, the point of a math education, again, like I've said before, I believe in sort of the idea of, like, the liberal, not a political thing, but the liberal education, meaning you sort of get a wide breadth of education in a variety of fields, but also within your field, that there's that, like, you get a cultural education too, but in the actual classes there's only so much time. And sort of the main thing is to train you to be a mathematician, right? And like, a pure mathematician, or even an applied mathematician in academia, you're writing proofs, right? So you're learning tools. It's as if you're a woodworker or something, like a carpenter. And yeah, I mean, probably to be a carpenter, it's like, a good carpenter, it's probably good to have an idea of, like, the culture, like, to have an idea of what's going on with, like, different machine manufacturing companies and the history of those companies, or the history of certain kinds of woods and their uses. And like I can imagine that all of those things are important, but then at the end of the day, like, in your actual class, at the end of the day, it's like, well, you just got to develop the skills of, like, being able to sand down the wood properly with, like, the appropriate grades, and to know which kind of binding glues are the ideal glues to use for certain kinds of projects and certain kinds of woods, like, these technical details. And then, if you're curious, if you're really truly passionate about your field of carpentry, you will inevitably, on your own time, pick up on those extra cultural things. And so, yeah, that's my take on this. But yeah, you have a book on Lie groups and algebra you want to read. Can I take a look at the table of contents and see if it's good? What's the book? Have I worked with someone or know someone who has worked with proof assistants like Lean or Cock? Yeah. In fact, I have a video. The first half of it is super cringe, I'll be honest with you. The first half is super cringe. But I have a video on my channel where I went to Italy for summer school, where I did proof assistance. Oh yeah, here we go. Hot boy summer. Yeah. Wow, look at that hot boy with my my shirt wide open at the chest there. Real hot boy summer. But yeah, so this video is there's actually educational stuff later on. I actually also went to a workshop in Banff about formalizing cohomology theories in Lean. So yes, I've worked with proof assistants. Haven't gotten my hands dirty with them for a while, but yeah, I've certainly worked with proof assistants in the past. I think it can serve as motivation, but isn't productive in the long run. Yeah. Yeah, 314 calls. What's this book on Lie groups? Lectures in Geometry, Semester 5 by Postnikov. Let's see. Well, maybe I can just copy paste it from chat here. Okay, I'll just type it. Lectures in Geometry. Semester 5. Table of contents. Yeah, his book looks old. Could be good, but you know what? I would really recommend. Okay, I'll tell you about this in a second. I'm sure it's fine. I mean, Postnikov is like a genius of the likes I could probably only ever hope to achieve. Actually, I should talk more positive. I'm the greatest mathematician that ever lived. But I would look at Hall, Lie groups. I would read this book, Lie groups, Lie algebras, and representations. Very, very good book. Starts well. I don't know what your background is, but if you don't have a crazy deep background, like this book starts, I think, very concretely with like matrix groups and stuff, and builds up. And there's tons of great stuff in there, and like appendices for things that like maybe you haven't learned yet that you need to pick up on. Of course, Fulton Harris is like the classical. This is like the reference, the go-to. See, like it's such a go-to that there's just a free version is like the second link on Google. This is where I sort of cut my teeth in basic Lie theory. Definitely more advanced. There's a little more stuff that's like left to the reader to do, but yeah, I mean Hall and Fulton Harris. These are the two like main classics, I would say. And then when you're ready, not that strong background, then yeah, probably start with Hall. I mean, yeah, I think it'll be a better introduction for you. Which, not to say like don't look ahead at Fulton Harris or Hall. And then of course there's also what's the one I'm thinking of? The other H one. I have a hard copy of this book. Humphreys? Is it Humphreys? Yeah. Lie groups. Introduction to Lie algebras and representation theory. Yeah. So this one's also pretty good, but it's like a good parallel to Hall in that like Hall just works over like the complex numbers and the real numbers. Humphreys works over an arbitrary field. So yeah, but it's also like this is also a really good book and builds up on a lot of things in a nice way. I guess it also depends. Are you more? I guess a lot of the things I've recommended here are all a little more focused on the Lie algebra side of the story. So if you're actually more interested in Lie groups, there might be better books. I think Bump actually has one that focuses more on the groups. Yeah. Lie groups by Bump. I haven't read this one as carefully, but there is very cool stuff there. And towards the end, he has more of a mind towards is this what he looks like? I've never seen what he looks like. Well, there's a self-drawing of him. Interesting. Very impressive beard. But yeah, he also has this great book. I talk about it in one of my What's on My Shelf videos about automorphic forms and automorphic representations. And so this is sort of towards the end. It's got a bit more of a mind towards like the Langlands type story. Anyways, let's dive into Postnikov. Let's see what's here. Yeah, smooth topological groups, Lie groups, Cayley transform. Yeah, I mean this looks pretty good. Oh, by the way, also, so not to overburden you with references, but so someone mentioned Two's book on smooth manifolds. I think this is a nice thing to have. So especially if your background's not that strong in manifolds, so this is a great introduction to manifolds book, and also it's nice to have on hand if you don't know Lie groups. So you use this book as a reference for the background of stuff you don't understand about differential geometry, and then it also does introduce Lie groups later on in the book. So this is probably a good place to go for your first introduction to Lie groups. So yeah, not that strong a background. I would recommend probably your two main sources should be definitely you should have two on hand, and probably Hall if you want to lean more into the representation theory, Lie algebra side. Bump maybe if you want to do more of the groups, because there's stuff like there's stuff like integral, like the understanding like the representation theory of like compact Lie groups and stuff. So there's a little more like actual Lie group stuff going on. All of them done by Springer. Start with Hall. Yeah, that's probably starting with Hall is a good call. That's what I'd say. Lie functor on the category of local Lie groups. Cool. Yeah, I mean this book seems fine. If you've got a hard copy, stick it in your backpack and like bring it with you places so you can read it. But yeah, I don't know. I would focus on the others. It also looks a bit older, which again doesn't mean it's bad, but we've probably improved on pedagogy since then. Oh, I'm not looking. Plus, I'm not liking the look of that font. Let's look at this. Oh yes, F4 with the C up top here. That looks gross. Yeah, this book is sus. I've seen worse. It's still readable. But yeah. Anyways, I think I might call it there for today. It's been a good stream. Thank you all for joining me. And yeah, I wish you all the best in proving lots of theorems today. Ooh, I just saw a question. Do I know pointless topology locale theory? Not very well. Not very well. I haven't studied it specifically, but if this is a perspective that you can take in a lot of cases, or that perspective is sort of implicitly there. But I'll talk about it maybe tomorrow. If I remember tomorrow, maybe I'll say a few words about it. Yeah, I'm peacing out. Time